жобаларды қалай ғылыми жобаларды жеңу үшін немесе ғылыми жобаларға өтінім беру үшін қандай approach қалай тәсілдер қолданамыз деген сияқты тақырыптарда бізді алдымызда Ардак Кашкynbayev мырза Назарбаев университетінің математика саласы бойынша associate профессоры.
Thank you for this nice introduction. My mistake, I assumed that the audience would be only locals. So I prepared the slides in Russian and I was planning to explain it in Kazakh or Russian, but I will do my best to explain the tips for drafting proposals for funding opportunities in Kazakhstan. So this visit wouldn't be possible without funding support from Jakarta Foundation to our ZAIN project. So this is a project for scientific community. We have in Astana, it's a social project, and then we have a kind of social grant, which made it possible for me to travel here today. So I'd like to acknowledge the funding and SD University for inviting me to give this talk. Okay, so please next slide. Sorry. Қазақша айта берейін.
Слайд болса қазақша айта беріңіз.
I'm sorry? Some notes in English. So you do understand? Kazakh is fine. So what, you are local? Not local. You are local. I see. Бірінші сұрақ, ақша қайдан келеді? So what is the source of funding, basically, okay? Мүмкіндіктер қандай? So source of funding бізде конкурстар болады. Осы жылғы конкурс. Обычно бізде конкурс ғылым комитеті, при министерстве ғылым комитеті бар. Солар конкурс жариялайды. И ол конкурстар әдетте жаңағы августтың соңында, сентябрьде сондайда болады. Осы жылы сәл кешігіп жатыр, өйткені олар әдетте қалай көктемде гранттың жауаптарын айтады, күзде конкурсты жариялайды. Биыл гранттың жауаптарын жазда айтты, енді конкурстың несі сәл шегерілді деп естідім, октябрьге қарай. Енді қаншалықты достоверный информация емес, бірақ октябрьге қарай конкурс күтсеңіздер болады, шамамен. Демек, онда заявка жазу керек, пропозал жазу керек. Қандай конкурстар бар? Енді мынау біріншісі конкурс грантового финансирования. ГФ деп айтамыз бұл. Конкурс ГФ. Бұл ең былайын айтқан кезде қазіргі таңда ең транспарент дейді ғой. Қалғандарымен салыстырғанда ең транспарент конкурс ол осы ГФ. Грантовое финансирование. И осыған тапсыруға болады. Мен өз жеке мен тәжірибеммен айта аламын. Бұл енді it's far from being ideal, okay? But so far this poll has been the most transparent poll we have here in our country. Next one is program targeted funding. Let's say sorry. Конкурс молодых ученых. Бұл, по сути, ГФ, то же самое. ГФ, по сути, ГФ. Бұл жерде бірақ ограничение по возрасту 40-қа дейін ғана тапсырылады. Енді өткен жылғы кейбір ограничениялар болды, екеуіне бірдей тастадыңыз. Екеуіне. Иә, және дұрыс айтасыз. Мынау конкурс молодых ученых егер бір рет алсаңыз, екінші рет тапсыра алмайсыз. То есть бұның кейбір ограничениялары бар. Жаңағы фандинг сорсы сәл азырақ, бірақ дегенмен осындай бір конкурс бар. Екеуіне бірдей тапсырсаңыз, екеуі де шығып жатса, онда біреуін таңдау керек болады. Одан кейін барып жас ғалым деген бар, ол туралы бөлек айтам. Бұл негізінде Samsung постдок ПЦФ деген бар, мынау программ Targeted Funding дейді, ағылшынша, программа целевого финансирования. There is such funding opportunity. Doesn't mean that you can apply. List transparent of all funding opportunities here, I would say. Енді одан кейін бар тағы бір проекты коммерциализация деген бар, ол туралы тағы да айтып өтемін. Енді мынау ПЦФ қайдан келеді? Бір ғылым комитеті өзі осындай не жасау мүмкін. Конкурс. Оны жасайды обычно. Немесе белгілі бір министрліктерде осындай не жасап жатыр. Мысалға, Министерство здравоохранения, мысалға, жасайды нелермен байланысты, мысалы, әртүрлі. Аурулармен байланысты, канцермен байланысты, немен байланысты егер ресерч болатын болса, соған бөлінеді. Бірақ бұл жақта оған келген кезде тағы да айтамын. Бұның өзіндік бір спецификасы бар. Неге транспарант емес? Оны айтып өтемін. Коммерциализация туралы да айтамын. Одан кейін барып, жаңағы сол ғылым комитетте жасау мүмкін, немесе белгілі бір министрлікте жасау мүмкін. Қорғаныс министрлігі, наоборот. Белгілі қорғаныспен байланысты проекттер болуы мүмкін. Бұл жерде әрине бір белгілі бір программа болу керек. Программа деген сөз белгілі бір конкретный жаңағыдай нақты нелерді проблемаларды шешу керек. Бастан қойылған. Немесе шетелдік проекттер бар. Horizon сияқты, немесе жаңа European Research Council, Einstein Foundation, UNESCO және де басқа конкурстар бар. Бірақ бұл жерде де өзіндік бір шектеулер бар. Horizonға былайынан бет алды тапсыра алмайсыз. Ол жаққа консорциум ретінде кіру керек. То есть ана жақта сізде Европада бір коллаборантыңыз болу керек, жұмыс істеп жатқан. И ол сізді қосу керек, солармен бірге ғана тапсыра аласыз. Өзіндікмен былайынан тапсыра алмайсыз. Сондай шектеулер бар. Бірақ дегенмен осындай бір мүмкіндіктер бар. Әркімнің тапсыра алатын нелері, конкурстар ол сол жақта. Ал мына төмендегі конкурстар олар шектеулер десек болады. Біріншісі жаңа ГФ дедік қой, грантовый финансирование. Бұл the most transparent ГФ немесе жаңағындай. Сол да для молодых ученых деген. Бұл жыл сайын болады. Осы октябрьде күтсеңіз болады. Келесі жылы. И бұның ең үлкен жаңағы шектеу бұл жерде бұл Horizon'дағы индивидуал жаңағы funding opportunities деген бар олар. Сол сияқты бұл жерде. Бұл жердегі бюджет қалғандарына қарағанда, жаңағы ПЦФ немесе коммерциализация қарағанда бюджет сәл аздау болады. Сол үшін егер сіз бір қымбат не алатын болсаңыз, оборудование, суперкомпьютер сияқты, онда оған ақша жетпейді бұл грант. Ондай бұл грантпен ала алмайсыз, қысқаша айтқан кезде. Немесе бір эксперименталист болатын болсаңыз, ол жаққа бір какой-то эквипмент алатын болсаңыз, оған жетіп кішігірім эквипменттер алуға болады, бірақ мысалға $100,000 эквипмент ала алмайсыз. Сол үшін бұл шектеу сондай болады. Бұл грантпен жалпы белгілі бір жобаларды істеуге болады. Жас ғалым деген бар. Мына жақта Нұрсұлтан бил алдым дедіңіз да, деген. Енді міне жас ғалым алғандар бар. Бұл Постдок сияқты оның шамамен 8 миллионға жылына сізге қанша? 10 қазір енді ескі ақпарат. 10 миллионға дейін бір бюджетіміз бар, көп емес. Және бұл жерде жаңағындай жаңадан PhD бітіргендердің тапсыра алатын бір конкурсы. Конкурс коммерциализация деген бар. Бұл жерде commercialization projects. So assumes that you already have successfully implemented some projects and ready to either produce a product or a service. Okay, so if you think that your project can be commercialized, you can apply for this funding. And they usually again announce it every year. It's for 2 years up to 300 million tenge for 2 years, right? So that's but this one you have to either basically produce a good, and then you should have a business plan, marketing, and then you have to realize the project, meaning that you have to sell the good or your service. After all, you have to give some report on this commercialization. So if you think that your project can be commercialized, and I don't have an experience applying to this specific call, but there is such opportunity, and then usually it assumes that you either will launch up a startup company or you will work closely with a business impact. So it's not you can apply it through your university. There should be basically two bodies applying to this project. One is a PI who is responsible for the scientific part of the project, and there should be another part should be either a startup company or already a company that can basically sell your product. Okay, so that's. I'm sorry, I was assuming that the audience would be only local, so I prepared my slides in Russian. Okay, so I'll do my best in explaining the slides in English. So next slide. So we have, as an opportunity, I said, program targeted funding. So this one usually assumes, so what are the advantages of this call to another course is basically, you can basically ask up to 2 billion tenge for 3 years, which means it allows you to buy some expensive equipments. Okay, so usually that's carried out not just by single PI, but a group of researchers. So it's a good opportunity to launch your international and local network. I have an experience applying to this one. We have been collaborating with Mathematical Institute here in Almaty, and then we have international collaboration. So it should be at least 2 organizations applying to this project. Right? So you should have a network of scientists, researchers, basically, and then applying for this call. And what are the disadvantages of this call is that obviously it is you are getting funding only for 3 years, and then you have ambitious plans. So the duration of the project, in our opinion, should be 5 years, but due to the constraints of Ministry of Finance, here the budgets are planned only for 3 years. So the government plans for every 3-year budget. They cannot, announce a call for 5 years. So that, though it's not the only disadvantage of this call is, as I said, is less transparent than other calls in the sense that, like, they collect so-called tasks for this project year before they announce the call. So when the call is announced, it's already too late, almost too late to apply for this call. Okay, so when there is a call, if you see program targeted funding call, right? So if you haven't like submitted your task in advance 1 year before this call, you almost have zero chance to get this funding, okay? So like you have to start early, and another disadvantage is that not all organizations can submit these tasks, okay? So usually how it happens, science committee sends requests to so-called research universities, and they have usually, unfortunately, SDU is not one of them because this is a private university, right? So they send it to public universities and public research institutes only, okay? So those institutes have a right to submit tasks, and then these tasks first go to the National Science Committee. It should be approved, only then it goes to now, another procedure is it goes to the National Academy of Sciences. So, so it passes through this 2 rounds of table discussions. If it is approved afterwards, it's approved by these 2 bodies. It is then suggested to the science committee to announce a call on this problem, okay? So then when you look at the call, it's quite specific, and usually you can guess who is going to be the PI of this program already, okay? So that's why if you are planning in the future to apply for this funding, you should already be collaborating with public universities, research universities like Al-Farabi University in Almaty, right? Or some Saqqaif University, or some other public research institutes like Institute of Mathematics, or they have several institutes basically in the building of Academy of Sciences, right? So you should be already collaborating with these guys, and then they know when this call is announced. They send requests, and then if they are interested, they can include you for this call. Okay, so the process starts a year before the call is announced. Okay, so you have to, so that's why I said it's the least transparent one. When it's announced, no. You may try obviously to apply, but from my experience, I heard only one case where it was given to a different PI who didn't. So, like, I heard only one. Okay, so it means that 99% will be already. So either that person gets it or nobody gets it. Okay, so what are how do you draft the proposal in general? So, okay, so I think. I had no opportunity to listen what Professor Shrali Kaderev reported. I may be basically repeating the already, maybe he has already mentioned all this. Okay, so basically what we say is you should have a goal to achieve your tasks. Okay, so these tasks you have to formulate basically. Okay, so how do you write a proposal? You should have well-formulated tasks, which basically solves some specific aim. So then, and then like these tasks should be performed during limited period of time. Usually it's up to 3 years. And then like your results should be measurable, whatever it means, okay? Measurable here, by measurable, we mean that, they expect you, you write a task, and then they expect you to write what is the expected outcome of your task. So, which is then measured. That's very important in a sense that, I would say that's very important when you draft, because if you had already PI experience, this monitoring team who comes to review your project basically opens a calendar plan, which consists of your specific tasks and expected outcomes, okay? And then they basically do what is your task and then what's your outcome? Have you reached your outcome? That's what they look for. Okay, so once you are set with this, then you start drafting your proposal. But when you write your proposal, usually, I mean, in my case, I'm a mathematician, and I know what is my priority area. Okay, so there are several prioritized kind of areas, they call it. Okay, in the code description, they write it. I think there's 7 or 8 some priority areas, right? So then, like, if you are doing interdisciplinary research, basically, okay, so you have to decide in advance which priority area you are going to apply, right? Which is very important. I mean, this might sound like a formality, right? But it's very important in this country because different research priorities have different so-called national scientific advisory board, right? And then they decide your proposal. So they kind of, at the end, they vote for your proposal. And if it happens that this group of people do not understand anything about your research, most probably they're going to turn down your proposal. Okay, so which obviously would be very pity, like, because writing proposal usually requires some time, yeah, right? You spend some time drafting like the proposal, which and then like basically in the proposal you are expected to write what is your what is the basically novelty of your project, why it is important, why you, I mean, are you competent enough to be a PI of this project? And then like you should have some sounding hypothesis, which basically will lead to a good project. That's what it is. So what are the main criteria of successful proposal? The main, like, okay, so in any proposal, you look for the answers of this question. Like, what is the problem that you are addressing in your proposal? Okay, so you have to clearly say that, okay, this is my problem. Okay, I'm going to, I don't know, like, solve a specific problem in higher education, right? And then next question is, okay, so you pick a problem. Is this problem suitable for your code? That's also important. Okay, so if in the program targeted funding, for example, right? So if they ask, does it kind of target any national task like problems we have? If it doesn't, they say that no, this is not the right call for you. You're better to apply for individual funding, for example. And then, like, why this problem is important, and then what is your novelty and how do you solve this problem, basically. So, so that's what basically you are looking for. When writing your proposal, you have to make it. Well, so it should be like, okay, so once you are set with your problem, you start to draft your proposal, right? So then drafting is, how do you draft your proposal, right? So it should be like a novel, basically. You should make it sound scientifically beautiful, we say. Okay, so in saying so, we say that it should be clear to some part of the proposal, obviously not the methodology part, but like abstract of the proposal or introduction of the proposal should be clear to, we say, to non-experts in your field. Okay, so when you write your introduction or abstract of your proposal, that's one of the main parts. Try to make it, try to use simple English. That's what we say. And your obviously we say that your project should be ambitious, but how ambitious it should be, right? So, okay. So then why do you write this proposal is basically at the end of the day, you are requesting for some funding, right? So then at the end of this slides, I will talk some tips about budget. This basically your proposal should be commensurate with the budget you're asking. Okay, so and that's also important because I had in my experience, I had one proposal which scored very high. Like I got 35 out of 36 or 30, 38 or something, right? Yet my proposal was rejected because there is so-called experimental economic expert, which is different. So that guy claimed that my budget is too high for the problem for my proposal. Okay, so then it was basically kicked out from the program. So that was a very unfortunate experience. So that's why when drafting your budget, basically you have to be kind of reasonable. Okay. And then like your tasks should be, I said, clear to non-experts. And then like the very first impression of your proposal starts with the title and your abstract. Okay. So anyone who gets your proposal first will read the title first, and then I will talk about title. And then next comes the abstract. Abstract is, you know, it's like an abstract of the paper, right? So when you good papers usually, I mean, I can say this not only about the proposal, but about articles as well, right? When you look at the good papers, usually it starts with a good abstract, okay? So it summarizes everything very nicely. So reading the abstract, usually, I mean, people can decide in general if they are going to score high or not. So you have to be very careful this stuff as well, this next slide. And now, okay, so that's how you start writing the proposal, right? So then like when the call is out, you basically check the call documentation, right? Which basically drafts everything about the expectations. The first expectation is about kind of what qualifications should PI have in terms of publications, degree, and so they write it here. Usually they write it. The PI should be, I don't know, they say that a full staff of some university or research institute who has some number of publications in a respected field. Okay, so and then like it should be okay. So that's about expectations from the PI before you start the proposal, right? And like this for young researchers, for example, they have a limit up to 40 years, something like this. You have to check what are the requirements for being PI. And then like the other thing you need to check is your hypothesis, right? So before drafting the proposal, you should start with sounding hypothesis, right? And then that doesn't come like this immediately. You should be already working in this field, and then you should have some sounding ideas, and then which basically will lead to some good hypothesis, and which in turn leads to good research problems. Okay, like then you ask a good problem, which leads to a good proposal, basically. Okay, so like it will be obvious, but I'll be honest with you. I failed my first TOEFL exam when I was high school kid, right? And And like I failed a reading part basically. So the reading part was not good. Then when I got my test score, back then it was in envelopes, if you remember. So in the envelopes, you open it and then you see your score. And immediately I was very disappointed. And because I got a low score in the reading part. So there was one paragraph which I don't forget. Like forever. So it basically starts with how do you improve your reading? Right, so that was the question. By reading a lot. So I mean, how do you improve your research correction, quality of your research correction, right? So by reading a lot of good research articles published in good journals, in your field. I mean, I'm not here to define what is a good journal in your field, but everybody who is working in their specific field knows what is the good journal, and then like you open a good journal and then like you follow some leading researchers in that field, right? And then you can come up with some brilliant ideas. Okay, so unfortunately, nowadays there are a lot of published papers, and some of them are not good. Okay, so it's basically rubbish. Okay, so my advice: do not read that rubbish. Don't waste your time reading those rubbish publications. Read good journals, good papers, follow leading researchers, and then that's the way how you should start basically to this journey of coming with a good hypothesis. That's kind of I have, at least from my experience. That's what I can say. Okay, so then you have to, once you have this task settled down, right? And then next question is, how do you plan to solve those problems, right? And that's basically about methodology. And in the methodology, it's basically the novelty of research. Here comes the novelty, right? So you say that this is the important problem I have, and then this is how I'm going to handle it, right? And then when you say this is how I'm going to handle the methodology, that's the part which is most important part of the proposal to me, at least. Okay, so I read the task. I say, okay, does this task sound good to me? I mean, is it reasonable tasks? If yes, and then I go to read the methodology. And then the methodology should be basically, if that's something repetitive of the literature, I say, well, I have seen similar works elsewhere. That's not impressing enough. Okay. So then that proposal obviously doesn't score high. So then here comes your kind of brilliant ideas, where you say that I have this idea, I will follow this paper, I will do this, and then I will prove this, and so on, right? And then that should be basically when you have when you say that, okay, I'm following these articles, those articles should be in good journals, as I said, and from good sources. I will say what good sources and bad sources are, in my opinion. Okay, so then next is you have to submit all the required documents, basically. Okay, so it happened to me, and like to best of us in this field. Sometimes, I mean, you overlook some simple stuff, and then in the past it was basically they said that your proposal didn't pass through this formal checking, and that's the most pity part, because you spend a lot of time drafting the proposal, you submit it at the end because of maybe I would say silly mistake. Like it always sounds silly at the end of the day. Okay, your proposal is being rejected. Nowadays they don't reject. They give you a chance to revise your this comments according to the comments, and then you can resubmit. But like it may happen that even afterwards it doesn't go through this formal checking, and then it basically that's not what I like. And to write a good proposal, is always, to me, is always about having a good team of future collaborators who basically is going to like, okay, so you have to write the proposal, if possible, with a group of people, a group of qualified people, who later on will be your team members, and then like will perform these ambitious tasks and research problems with you once you get the funding. Okay, so that's the idea. And then key is here a good team. So what like in my case, a good team is a combination of enthusiastic graduate students, okay, and experienced collaborators. Okay, so that's the combination of both. So like all my successful proposals were drafted together with my graduate students. So far, I've been involved in 3 program targeted funding. I already finished one this gave, like this proposal. And currently I'm a PI of one. And then I have several new internal grants. Okay, so, and all of them were drafted in collaboration with my master and PhD students and my international collaborators. Okay, so basically, main job is for our team to draft the proposals, and then before I submit, I send it to my international collaborators to proofread and put some comments, and then afterwards I revise my proposal accordingly before submission. Okay, so that's how I do in my case. So that team is very important. Okay, so it's not a single man job. If you are a graduate student, right? So like well, after I get the funding, obviously, I spent almost well, I would say more than 50% of my project to my graduate students. Okay, I pay them salary as a salary. So that's like the motivation for them to draft, like to help. And then like that's, in my opinion, also a training process, right, of my graduate students. Then I teach them how to write successful proposals. So then in the future, when they get their degrees, they are ready to submit proposals themselves. Okay. Next one. Here, okay, so here we say that like there should be a goal, and then it should be no more than 3 goals, and then they should be in a logical sequence, and then these goals you break up into the tasks, and each task basically should serve to the same goal. So that's what I say here. So briefly, next slide. So how do we come up with good hypothesis? Yeah, I already mentioned this perhaps, right? So it should basically describe your aim of the project. Okay, so you say that my aim is to do this, and then to reach this aim, I have basically this hypothesis. I mean, you want to test something. Okay, so here, so in the proposals, they say they have a section about importance of your research, and that's not about literature review of the problem. Okay, so yeah, you can allocate some paragraph for the literature review, but that's not about literature review at all. Okay, so that should basically explain the short history of the problem. not the field. Okay, so basically you have to lead to you say that this is my aim that I want to accomplish, right? And then this part is to explain why this is important problem and so on. Okay, obviously some literature review should be there, but it's not only literature review. When you read this, you have to get an impression that yes, man, this is an important problem to find. You have to basically convince me why should I give you money. So that's the whole idea, basically. Okay. So I said like reliable sources and non-reliable sources. For reliable sources, you have the Scopus index papers and Web of Science index papers. You can use Google Scholar to search some researchers and papers, but you have to be careful that not all papers in Google Scholar is indexed in Scopus or Web of Science. So my personal opinion is that you have to basically follow Q1 journals. My humble opinion. Okay, you don't have to, but in some rare case you can go to Q2 journal papers. But my humble opinion is like you stick to the Q1 papers and they're not right already. I mean that's my opinion. And then there are some other reliable sources on the left. What I don't suggest is to use textbooks and monographs. Okay, so monograph you can use it if it is highly cited. Sometimes it happens that it's kind of they say it's the Bible in our kind of Bible of our field. Then it's okay to cite it. Okay. In other case, if it is not well cited monograph, usually it expresses a narrow view of the author, and then if you follow this narrow view, your proposal will be basically reviewed by some reviewers, right? And that reviewers basically may not agree with this opinion, and then your proposal will not score high. Okay, so you be careful when you cite monographs, and obviously you don't follow textbooks. All right. Okay, so this is about some part about, okay, so here I say that it's important to check what are the expected outcome of this code. Okay, so sometimes, and they keep it updating every year. Last year, they said one of the publications should be in the multidisciplinary journal. Okay, so then if you are proposing a research which basically will not lead to a publication in a multidisciplinary field, it's better to think twice before submitting this proposal. And then last year, they also said you should have one PhD student defended at the end of the project. Okay, so I think they relaxed this condition. I think so, right? So that was too restrictive. But I mean, you have to check basically this kind of funding expectation requirements before submitting. And another thing is to have some preliminary results before on this field before you submit the proposal. Okay? So if you have zero research outcome on the proposal, that will not sound good, and probably you are not going to score high. Okay. So what I suggest is, even if okay, so you say that the idea is very good, I still want to go with this idea and write a proposal, then perhaps what you can do is sometimes you can have some preliminary results, perhaps, okay, to collect data, I don't know, some preliminary results, or next slide, sometimes it so happens in an engineering field or some other fields that you can publish review articles. what is a review article, right? So in my field, to write a review article, you should be a good expert in that field, okay? But in some field, like, I don't know, my wife is from chemistry, and it's not required for them to be an expert to write a review paper on a new field, okay? So, and that's a good excuse for them to, before writing and like introducing, like before basically writing a proposal in the field, you end up reading a lot of papers already, right? And then what's the input? You basically state of the art of the problem, right? And then you can, if you put it in a nice way, you can publish it as a review article already. And that counts. And that counts. Okay? You say that I have a review article and have some preliminary results, and then like you can build a proposal on this idea already. And then like what we say is your article proposal should be readable, kind of. I mean, it should be smooth, basically. Okay, and then it should be self-contained, meaning that like you don't refer too much to other references. It should be clearly indicate your ideas and your tasks. Next. So I think I already summarized here. What's next? So that's about the budget. Okay, so I already told that one of my successful funding. Okay, so I scored 35 out of 36, and yet it wasn't funded because of the budget. Okay, so like they claimed that the budget was not structured properly, and then they said unreasonable, so they reject. Okay, so like the funding source should be basically the money you are asking should be a reasonable amount to solve the tasks you are writing your proposal. And then if you have some, like sometimes it happens that you ask too much money for business trips, then they can say that, well, no. And maybe it's also important to, so you have a paragraph where you write about your research environment, like this is the university, okay? So in that part, you have to describe what you already have in this university available to do your research, relevant to your research. And then you say that because I have this, and this only computer is missing in my lab, I need to buy a computer, and then you can basically justify why you should have a supercomputer or a high computing device in your lab, for example. Okay, and if you have something like this, if you draft, it will be a good support to say that, hey, because I said this in my proposal, I need this computer. And then like, co-funding, if you have a co-funding, usually you get extra points for the proposal. Up to 4 points you can get if you get up to 5% of external funding to your project. Okay, so it's not, so all the projects I got without this co-funding, but if you have, that might be a plus advantage for your proposal. And that's, I guess, it. Okay, so that's well, I said all this already. So, if it is first time you are drafting a proposal, so in this website they have instructions how to create an account. So we submit it here, and then how to submit your proposal. Okay, and that's it. Thank you. If you have questions, feel free to ask me. So I speak Kazakh, Russian, broken Russian, and English.
Thank you for very nice presentations. A question I try to ask now, time should as well, is if somebody is eligible, like that has a proposal that's eligible for post general general competition, and then just
research.
discussions. I'm hearing that it's advisable, like this, you'll get more chances if you submit it to the general one, not the young researchers one, because the
Right.
less amount of project
Right.
that's competition.
Right.
So is it really the case?
Well, in my case, it was vice versa. Okay, when I started submitting, back then, when I got these young researchers, it wasn't that competitive, in my opinion. I mean, very subjective, right? But now people say that, okay, so it's basically the funding for that called young researchers hasn't increased, but because of the inflation and this currency exchange rate, right? That funding is not, I wouldn't say it's comparable to the other one, general call, right? So if you have one brilliant idea and then you are to deciding, should I submit to this one or young one or general one? I would suggest you go with the general one, obviously. Okay, so it's basically you have, in my opinion, like you have more funding, which means you have more chances of getting funded. Okay, but here the funding hasn't increased, and then like the competition has increased, right? So it may happen like maybe like if there are like better proposals, maybe I don't know. So they only fund like I don't know less than 10 proposals in each field. Okay, like priority areas. So it's an opportunity. Yes, I agree, but I would go with the general one. Any other? Yes.
I have one question. For example, in your proposal, you mentioned that you'll be publishing in a certain journal, for example, let's say economics.
Right.
But you came up with a management later on,
Right.
published on journal management.
Right.
That's something I should worry about?
It is. I mean, it is if you mention it in your calendar plan, right? So there is a calendar plan, and then you say that I'm going to publish my paper in my second year in this specific journal you mentioned. You trap yourself. You don't do this. You don't do this. Okay. So, like you say that basically. Okay, so why I said this expected results, this monitoring. So when they come to you, like monitor your, basically review your proposal, they will read these tasks. That's how they do usually. Okay, and they expect outcome. If they say some inconsistency between what you write and what you have, they're going to punish you. Okay, so better not to write any job name or any. Conference name specifically in the calendar plan. You can write it in the proposal, okay? So that's how I do. I say that the outcome of this task would be published in Q1 or Q2 journal, in any specific journal. Because, well, it happens to best of us that you like, it's a very good, work. And then you submit it one Q1 journal, it gets rejected, but gets accepted to another Q1 journal. So it's very difficult to predict how it goes. Okay, so I would advise avoiding writing any concrete names like. Okay? So when it comes to it's also true when it comes to the so like the tips I have for your research team. Okay. So there is a paragraph where you mention who are your research team, right? So you have a table and then you can write something. Okay, so in that table, you have a restriction of including international foreign researchers, right? So for each foreign researcher, you include in your team, you should have at least 4 local researchers. So it means that like you can include at most 1 foreign researcher. But if you happen to have 2 collaborators, leading researchers in your field, right? What I do is I mention it in the paragraph. I say that I'm going to collaborate with these guys who are like, agree to work in this project with 0 salary because the idea is so sound that they want to collaborate, kind of, right? But I don't mention their names in the table, okay? The same, like you can write like on the methodology part, whatever part, but when it comes to writing a calendar plan, right, that would be on the agreement, grant agreement. So your whole, from your proposal, which is, I don't know, 20 pages, 40 pages, whatever pages, right? They specifically take what they take, the title of your proposal, right? And this calendar plan, okay? So you be careful what you write in the calendar plan. It should sound obviously, but you don't, okay?
If your research was submitted under one criteria, but paper,
Okay, that's, I think, well, it's up to the National Scientific Committee to decide at the end of the day. But from the call perspective, I don't see any problem. That's my, well, I haven't done so, but that's my, like intuition says like should be no problem. Okay, so you can always argue that I don't have anything which specifically mentions that like you have to publish it in economics field, not management field. Okay, so in the past I submitted, well, it's relevant to the project, but it was published in Scientific Reports, which is a multidisciplinary journal. Okay, so that was like a Q1 multidisciplinary journal. I said like, it is what I have. Okay? So it wasn't in mathematics journal, it wasn't math journal. Okay, so then they accepted like, so from my experience, I think should be no problem. Unless you mention specific names. Okay? Any other questions?